This video is a quick rundown of how to use this tip BCH repository. It is a way of generating Bitcoin Cash tips. They look like this. And the cool thing about it is that you can hand them out freely after you fund them, and then after a certain amount of time goes by, whenever you feel it's appropriate, you can reclaim the money on the tip if it was never claimed. And that's a common problem with cryptocurrencies, is like giving someone a tip, trying to encourage them to use it, and then they just throw it away because they don't know what it is, or they just want to take the time, and that's totally normal. And if that would happen, you'd lose the funds, and that's a bummer. So you don't want that to happen. So this is a way of generating these little paper tips that you can give people, and then you can reclaim the funds if they don't spend them. I need to preface this that this is for developers, and if you're not technically minded, then that's fine. Try and follow along as best as you can. If you're not technical at all, and the idea of being technical scares you, I suggest you go to tips.bitcoin.com. This is a great way to do the exact same thing and generate tips, and this is a much more user-friendly interface. You don't need to install anything. You can just go there with your web browser and click a few buttons and follow the instructions. So if this more technical approach doesn't work for you, this is the alternative. And first of all, I want to give a shout out to Gabriel Cardona, who created the Golden Ticket project, which this is forked from. So if you've been to any Bitcoin.com events, you might have gotten a golden ticket like this where you scratch off and there's a QR code and you claim it. So he created this program, and I modified it to generate small paper tips like this. And so that's what I'm going to show you how to do. So if you've never used Node or NPM, that's really the only software you need in order to run this code I'm going to show you. And the place to go is node.js.org. Click on the best button. You probably want the LTS, the long-term support. Follow the instructions. Try and get that installed on your computer. If you can do that successfully, you'll have Node and NPM installed, and that'll be, and then you're off and running. You should be able to follow the steps in this video and generate your own tips. So I went ahead and deleted my copy of this repository, and I'm going to start from scratch just like you would, so you can follow along. I am going to move fast, so feel free to pause the video and rewind to move at your own pace. Okay, so what it does is you fund what's called a mothership address with an amount of Bitcoin Cash, and then you tell it, I want you to generate, X number of children. So like, let's say 10 children, like 10 tips. And then the money that you send to that mothership address is going to get evenly distributed to the 10 children. And that's another sort of caveat of this approach, is if you want to send different amounts to the different children, this code's not set up for that. So you're going to have to hack it and figure it out yourself. But this is a quick way of just generating, so if you put $10 on the mothership address and generate 10 children, each one is going to have $1. So let's get started and jump in. What you want to do to get to the screen that I'm showing right here is go to GitHub, look for my name, Chris Troutner, and then my repository, which is tip.bch, or you can just copy this whole URL, type that into your web browser to get here. So, and if you've never used Git before, you're also going to need to install Git and learn how to do Git. So those are kind of the requirements. Those are like Node and Git are the basic requirements for using and getting started in JavaScript. And I suggest you do it because there's a lot of good stuff there. Even if you're not a programmer or a developer, just getting comfortable using Node and learning the basics of how to pull stuff down from Git, there's a lot of power there. There's a lot of cool stuff, particularly in the realm of cryptocurrencies. So I've already got Git and Node installed, and actually I'm just going to copy that URL right here. Okay, so I'm already in the directory. I'm going to git clone that repository, and that's just a URL out of my browser. And right now, as it's pulling all the code down, while it's finishing that up, I'll just show you that I have Node version 10.15 and NPM version 6.9. That's what is the long-term support version that I have installed today. Okay, so that's been generated. So what I'm doing is I'm following these installation instructions. I've installed Node, and I have version 10, so it's greater than 8. I just cloned the repo. That's what I just showed you, and so now I'm going to go into that directory. You know, and this will be, I'm on Linux, so this will be a little bit different if you're in a Mac or Windows. Okay, so I'm in the tip BCH directory, and now I'm going to install the dependencies, npm install. But this process should be the same across all the operating systems. You should be able to open up a terminal, install Git, install npm and Node, open up a terminal, and follow these commands. There should be equivalents for all the different operating systems. And then while that's installing, we'll just jump down here. This is the basic usage. We're not going to use all of these today in the video, but they all work. And first we're going to generate a wallet, and that's going to create the mothership address, and then it'll display a QR code that will then fund. Okay, these are all installed, so let's go ahead and see. Okay, so npm run generate wallet. I'm just going to hit enter to default to English, but there's several other languages available. And I'm going to generate I'm going to generate 5 children. Okay, right here. So if you're super technically minded, you will know that this is your 12-word mnemonic. This is the most important thing to keep safe and not show other people. This is a demo, so I'm going to destroy this when I'm done. This is the HD path. Don't worry about that if you don't know what that is. This is the Bitcoin address, Bitcoin Cash address that you're going to send money to, and it is also encoded here as a QR code. So this QR code and this address are the same thing. And so what you can't see right now, which is happening off screen, is I have my Bitcoin.com wallet on my Android phone. And you can get that by going to wallet.bitcoin.com. And I've already got some money. So what I'm going to do is I'm pulling that up right now, and I'm going to fund this QR code with my phone. And you won't be able to see anything, but so before we go, I'm going to pull up just so you can see kind of how to double check your work. If you go to explore.bitcoin.com, so what I did is I just copied this Bitcoin Cash address and I'm going to paste it in here, and we can see that the balance is 0. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fund this right now with $1 US, which is approximately 0.0036 Bitcoin Cash today. Okay, so that's happened. So I'm going to go back and refresh the screen, and bam, you can see $1, and there's the equivalent amount in Bitcoin Cash. So the mothership address has been funded. And then next I'm going to create the children addresses. Oop, hit the wrong button. And that's going to generate the PDF files. But it's not going to fund them. They're not funded at this point. It's just creating the actual paper tips that you'll then print out and hand to people. Okay, there's that. So if I go into, this is not the right one. Mine's tip BCH. There we go. So if you go into the directory, this is the same directory here. You go to the output directory, and then the PDF, and then private key whiffs. These are the 5 children And so I can click on each one and see this is what would print out. So they all look exactly the same except for the QR code. The QR code's different. And there's no address here because this isn't a public key. This is a private key. This is the part that you're not supposed to show anybody, but that's what they use. So again, they would you would get the wallet from wallet.bitcoin.com and scan this QR code. Or alternatively, if you're on a browser, you can do badger.bitcoin.com. They're going to be coming up with a mobile. We already have a browser extension, and I believe it's capable of scanning QR codes, although I haven't tried that. But this is mostly intended to be used with the smartphone. You'd give these out at an event, or you'd give them like your waiter as like an extra tip. In addition to fiat, don't be that dude that just gives cryptocurrency tips. Do it in addition to fiat tips. Okay, so now that these have been generated, so it's left to the user to collate, which is basically staple, a fancy word for staple. What you would want to do is put all these into one PDF and then print them in a way that you're doing multiple pages per page when you actually physically print them. Otherwise, so that they're not like huge and taking up a whole page, like one each. You can do it that way, but that's going to be weird. Like I envision these, you probably want to be like 3 inches, like 2 inches by 3 inches, or 3 inches by 4 inches. And so what you'd want to do is collate all these pages together into one PDF, then print that file with like 4 to 6 pages per page, and then that should all come out correctly. Okay, so there's these other ones, and but I'm not going to worry about them right now for this demo. The next important one is this fund addresses. So what this is going to do is this is the command that will actually send the money from the mothership address to all the children addresses. Okay, and so if you get this success message, that means it worked, and you can check it by copying the TX ID, the transaction ID, and going back to the Block Explorer and putting that transaction ID in here, and you can see here's the dollar from the mothership address, and it went to the 5 children. And actually, if we go back and refresh and look, you'll see that, let's see, total received, total, oh, that's interesting. This should say no balance. But, oh yeah, okay, there we go. I just refreshed it. Now it's showing no balance because all that money got sent to the children. So, sweet. So those are funded. So you can now, you can print those PDFs off at any time, but they're not funded until you run this command. Now they're funded. And then, so you hand them out, and let's say a month or two goes by, and you're like, man, I wonder, how many people use those tips. You can, that's not actually the command. I meant to take that command out. That command's not the command you want to run. There is a command. Tip BCH. Check addresses. I'll update the README so that it has this, but you can check your addresses, and that's going to create a CSV file, which is a type of file you can open in like Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. And these are the children addresses, and right now, yeah, it looks like it thinks that one of them has been claimed, or one of them's been claimed and the other ones haven't. I don't know. That's kind of weird. It should say false for all of them. But this is an easy way to generate the public address and the private key for all the children. And I'm going to update this here in a few minutes so that it accurately will reflect whether one of their tips have been spent or not. And then, let's say a month, and then you're like, okay, like after a month or two's gone by, it's time to reclaim your funds, because if they haven't been spent, they probably aren't at that point. They probably got thrown in the garbage. So then, what you want to do is open up. I'm gonna do Electron Cash. This is a pretty one of my favorite wallets because it has cash shuffle, which keeps your stuff anonymous. And but it doesn't matter what wallet you use. You just want to get a Bitcoin Cash address to reclaim your funds and send them to. So npm run reclaim funds. And it's going to ask you, and I'm going to paste in that Bitcoin Cash address. And so it's going through, and it's this act is called sweeping. It's sweeping all the children, and if there's funds there, it's going to claim them and send them to that address we just gave it. And so that's how you reclaim your tips that haven't been spent. And that's it. That's the whole demo, and that's the whole repo. So my goal with this is to encourage people to print out these tips and use them and grow a Bitcoin adoption, Bitcoin Cash specifically, Bitcoin Cash adoption, because it's a great way to tip.